This is it. We are live. It is 4 p.m. in the UK. My name's James Ski. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence. We are the largest network of salespeople and sales leaders in the UK. You know, you can see and hear me in the comments if you've arrived yet. If the backstage speakers can nod, if it's coming through loud and clear. Okay, good stuff. I'm just going to get orientated so I can see where people are coming in from. Great. Alex, I can see you. Thanks for the heads up. If you can just start commenting as you arrive, that'd be super cool. Love to know what your role is, where you're coming in from, and what you're doing. In a moment, I'm going to invite our co-host up, Will Rees, who is a partner at Corinthian Wealth Management. He and I are co-hosting this first ever Money Matters event for salespeople and sales leaders in the UK. We've got a fantastic lineup of speakers. So you can understand our focus and priority for this event. We were very much looking for high-performing individual contributors and leaders that have also achieved high earning milestones in their career. So that's that first 100K milestone all the way up to 500K and above. So these individuals have been vetted based on their performance and what they've delivered in their career over the last few years. I'm going to do a brief introduction about sales confidence, talk you through the format, and then we're going to kick off with the speakers and we'll get into it. So just before I invite Will up, just to give you an appreciation of what's going to be happening in this event. The first part is Will and I, the partner at Corinthian, are just going to do an introduction for why we created the Money Matters series. Number two, we will then have each speaker. So we've got Johnny Campbell first, Joe Pilkington, Chris James, then Will from Corinthian is going to speak. And then I'm going to wrap up by giving you an overview of the Sales Confidence membership, which you will have the opportunity to join with some bonuses at the end of the day. Then there will be a panel discussion. So if there are any questions you want to get into the mix that you haven't been able to ask during the speaker sessions, then by all means, you can do that at the panel discussion at the end. So let's invite up Will. Hi, Will. How are you doing?
Hi, James. I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So can you just do a brief introduction, like who you are, who are Corinthian, and why did you decide to kind of partner with Sales Confidence this year?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, James. Corinthian are a senior partner practice of St. James's Place. So I'm sure many of the guys on the call have heard of St. James's Place, either from advice or have even sold to SJP in the past. I've seen that a lot over the last 5 years. We partner with Sales Confidence simply because we're building a distinctive approach here for salespeople, right? I'm sure many of the guys on the webinar today have looked at my LinkedIn. It's very specific to the salespeople and the world and their common challenges. James and I were introduced, what must be a couple of years ago now, by an existing client, a very good friend and client of mine, because there was great synergy between what we were both trying to achieve. And to summarize massively, I was speaking to salespeople every single week, James. I remember me going through this, and they were constantly stressed about tax and not just the performance pressure, but also what to do with it when they get there. And actually, what it was leading to was this indecision that most salespeople weren't doing anything, and they weren't even aware of how it all worked. And that was just adding to more constant stress, anxiety, and pressures, which again there's enough of that in software sales, right, and a wider sales remit. So our proposition here today is just to build a bit of education. That's the first point. You'll see a bit about our sort of 3 tenets to our service. Is to educate, just to explain how everything works, because there's very little support in the industry. Then to sort of develop that into guidance, what you could be considering, what others in a similar position have done. And then for those that need it, some actual advice based on an understanding of your industry. And credit to the Sales Confidence team and the membership for bringing this to the industry, because I'm not sure that anyone else is doing this right. And hopefully it'll be of use today. So thanks, James.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. Just so you're understanding, as part of the Sales Confidence membership, we're helping salespeople and sales leaders each stage of their career with your mindset, well-being, and performance. So we've always cared about the mind. We've always cared about well-being, and performance is obviously what we're all driven to achieve. But the thing that was missing was financial well-being, right? Once you start achieving quota, you start overachieving, you start getting promotions, you start getting to that next level. Like, how do you manage your money? How do you make it go further? And it just seemed like a no-brainer for something to consider. And I pick up on Will's point. Absolutely, understanding this sooner in your career is much better for you for the long term. So we've got over 100 people on this webinar right now. So I'm glad that you've joined us to learn from our lineup of speakers, hear from Will, hear from myself about how we can help you as part of the Sales Confidence membership, and look forward for you having a good experience. So Will, do you want to introduce our first speaker, please?
Certainly can. Thanks, James. So first, we've got Johnny Campbell, who is head of sales at FM Outsource. He's going to talk to us about going from 0 to 100 in performance and commission. Johnny has over a decade of experience in sales, customer service, account management, and client services. He covers all aspects of client lifecycle at FM Outsource, leading sales development, account management, and customer success, as well as managing some of their key accounts directly. Johnny is also a dedicated Sales Confidence member, which goes to show just how committed he is to fulfilling his own personal potential. Johnny,
amazing. Johnny, you're up.
I couldn't have put it better myself, Will. Thank you very much for the intro.
You're literally our first speaker for our first Money Matters event, Johnny. So I really appreciate it, and look forward to your talk, mate. Good luck.
Amazing, thank you. So cheers, guys. Nice to see you all. Set the scene, really. As someone who's worked in sales for about a decade, I struggled to get where I wanted because I didn't know what that looked like. I knew I wanted more money, a house, a car, to go on nice holidays, but I didn't know what that was. That was until a day in 2017 when I went to buy a Tesco meal deal and my card was rejected. And many people will tell you that sales is all in your head, but it's not. Sales for me is about the practical elements, and you'll get a lot of amazing tips today, and the emotional element. And I firmly believe you need both of those things to be successful. I'm going to quickly run through how I would go from a standing start if I knew what I knew now, and really getting some momentum behind your earning potential. So I want to start off by saying that for me, motivation really is everything that underpins what we do in sales and in life. Whether you're running to lose weight, taking a cooking class to be a better cook, or meditating to keep a level head, there's a motivation on the other side of every action we take. It could be as simple as making a coffee. There's a reason why you're doing it. I think just saying to yourself, I want to earn 100 grand, probably won't be enough for most people. There's a reason why you want to earn that money. If I was you on day one, that's where I would start. I needed the embarrassment of not affording a £3 meal deal to get me off my ass, but it didn't need to be that dramatic. I think once I got over that embarrassment, for me, it was sitting down and working out what I needed more money for. Obviously, being able to afford lunch is quite a nice place to start. But being ambitious, I set my personal sight on a long-term goal, which was buying my first home. Now, as many of you will know, buying a home isn't just how much of a deposit can I save, it's the long-term ability to then afford it. So it isn't just how can I get a chunk of money to put into a house, it's how can I then afford the upkeep, the random cost, the council tax, and all the other elements. It isn't just getting to 100k, it's how you can then stay there from then on. That's why for me, setting that motivation early on is absolutely key. You know, are you feeling sorry for yourself because you didn't hit target? I thought you wanted a house. And you missed out on a big deal and you're feeling a bit flat? I thought you wanted a house. And I think it's fine having practical steps behind all them. And like I said, you'll hear some incredible ideas during the course of this series. I think having that motivation kind of on day one is absolutely key. I'm very, very blessed to say that I got my first house in 2021, 4 years after that kind of wake up moment. But since then, I've set new goals and a new one and a new one. It doesn't need to be a huge lifelong investment like a house. You know, do you want to buy a Rolex? Use that to motivate you. Do you want to be able to take your parents to a nice restaurant or go on a nice holiday with your spouse? Use that to motivate you. As I said, just saying I want to have more must have a reason behind it. You're in sales to make money, most people here, and you want to make more money in order to buy something or do something. I think earning more pounds is difficult to stay motivated on unless that pound equals something you truly want. So that's my first bit of advice. Pick something you want and run towards it. I think once you've got that motivation, it's now about setting a goal and setting targets to kind of work towards. But one thing I want to break apart are goals and targets. For me, goals are aspirations, motivations, and end results. It's the outcome you want to see at the end of a process. So it could be that you want to run a marathon or buy a new car. That goal is the end result of the ambition that you've got. It's a static goal and it shouldn't ever really change. You can, create a new goal and move it, but you can't change that physical goal. You can only succeed or fail at it. You don't change the goal, you set a target. And for me, targets are far, far more granular than an overall goal. Targets are numerical, the logical, the pragmatic, and devoid of all emotion. The best way I can kind of split those two pots out are goals are very emotional, kind of personally led. Targets are quite stoic and very, very practical and numerical. I live by a phrase I've heard banded around a lot, but I heard it first from a personal trainer on YouTube called James Smith. And he always coined the phrase of, you should never target yourself to lose £10. You should target yourself to lose £1 10 times. Essentially, don't set a target of earning £1 million over the next 5 years, or even 100 grand this year. Set a target that makes sense in a much shorter period of time and break that down into easily digestible targets and pots. I never sat there at the start of this journey and said, my target is 100K. My goal was 100K. My target was how I went about hitting it. For me, I reverse engineered the numbers, and I'll walk you through a little bit of how I did that later. It's a very number heavy section, so apologies for a Wednesday afternoon. But with that 100 kind of K goal in mind, if we sensibly break that down, the easy method is to take 100K, divide by 12, right? But there are a few things to consider. Lulls in sales happen. That period between Christmas, when everyone's off, summer holidays, right now it's quite a quiet time with people taking annual leave. So, and you've got 25 days a year of holiday, so call it 5 weeks. You've got around about 2 months of the year that you effectively lose due to things outside of your control. So out the gate, you've lost 2 months. Now, I'm not here to scare you, but you've now got 10 months left out of that kind of entire period where you need to sell. So that's your target, 10 grand a month. The goal hasn't changed. It's still 100K. Just how you get there has, and that's your target. My advice on that, once you've set a target on a monthly basis, if you exceed that target in a month, don't change the rest of the month's target. Keep them exactly the same. If you underachieve and miss your target, add that difference on. So if you miss out on your monthly target by £1,000, add that £1,000 on to the remaining months in that time period that you've set. You've always got the ability then to overachieve, and you've also got the ability then to kind of make up any downfall. The next bit is how I would then take that goal, that 100K, that target of 10K, and reverse engineer it from there. So let's say, and again, this varies wildly in SaaS. Let's say your average deal value is 5K and your commission's 10%. Nice and easy, £500 every single deal you sign. For a 10 grand per month target, it means you need to hit 20 deals a month. Now, in an average month where we exclude holidays, that's about 20 working days, well, 21 working days. So for argument's sake, let's say it's 1 deal every single day. That's where being super, super consistent really, really comes into play. And it's this reverse engineering that will make you kind of see what you need to do every single day and how you need to show up to kind of hit that overall number. Now, going a step further back, if you know your conversion rate is 20%, that means you need about 100 strong qualified leads every single month. Going a step back further, if you can go any further back, if you know your SDR conversion rate for cold outbound dialing is 5%, they need to reach out to 2,000 people to get you to your target. So reverse engineering isn't just looking at what you do in your work. It's a forensic look across the entire business. If you can support the team at the early starts of the life cycle, and get their conversion rate up to 10, 15%, there's more quality leads coming your way. If you've got a better quality lead coming your way, you should get a high conversion rate. You're converting more, you've got more kind of commission in there. I think for me, reverse engineering is critical to understanding those targets. Now, you've got a motivation, you've got a goal, you've done your targets, and you've reverse engineered what it looked like. My last bit of advice to kind of wrap up is to treat every day like a school day. Now, various leaders take credit for the following phrase, but I still love it as a phrase anyway. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And the other one is, if you think you know everything, you know next to nothing. I consider myself pretty knowledgeable when it comes to psychology. I've got an A-level, years of reading, but there are experts out there who've probably forgotten more than I know about psychology, body language, tonality, and much more. You don't just have to learn from sales leaders. You don't just have to attend calls to learn more. Treat every day like a school day. It isn't just sitting there and reading books. You don't have to read 10 books a month, wake up at 5 a.m., run a sub 4-hour marathon. You just have to be open to always learning more. For me, I listen to podcasts that aren't even to do with sales directly. At the minute, I'm listening to a lot of Andrew Huberman, who's the neuroscientist. He goes into massive details on things that I don't profess to understand, but it isn't just the topics he covers that interest me. It's the fact that you are always learning something new. If you've got a big deal that you're trying to convert, make sure you're a student of that field. You know, for example, if they're in the travel industry, I'd be going out of my way to read magazines, LinkedIn articles, check out YouTube, recent news. There's a wealth of information out there for salespeople now to learn more about individual fields. So no matter what it is, learn more about it. It doesn't only mean you know what you're talking about, it also gives you the confidence to talk about things on a sales call that aren't just the sale. I spend the first 5 to 10 minutes of a sales call chatting, and it's not just about the weather. I know a fair bit about most industries at this stage, but I know one of my weaknesses at the moment is engineering, manufacturing, international shipping, and things like that. I know if I ended up on a call right now, the prospect, I'd struggle to make a really compelling argument and conversation to solutionize their problems. That's why for me, I'd go out of my way to learn more, speak to people in the industry, do my research, and do more outside of just the sales cycle. So for me, to summarize, find that motivation and the reason why you want to earn more money. Set the goal and link it to why you're motivated, and don't change that goal. Let your targets really guide that goal and get you to where you need to be. Use reverse engineering of your numbers so you can effectively plan towards that target. And then to finish off, let every day be a school day and always be open to learning more. So that's wraps up my talk.
Johnny, thanks very much for opening that event. Some super valuable insights and well-structured, good formatted. So thank you very much. We'll bring you back shortly later. Okay, next up, we've got Joe Pilkington, who is currently Enterprise Account Executive at Multiverse. He's going to be talking about being disciplined, removing distraction, and communicating directly. He started his sales career over 4 years ago with Gartner. Within 3.5 years, he had 5 different roles across several divisions, starting as an account manager, finishing as a business development director. And in the last 6 months, he's moved to EdTech unicorn Multiverse as an enterprise AE, where he's advising C-levels of Fortune 500 and FTSE 250 businesses to close the digital skills gap using professional apprentices. He's a big Liverpool FC fan, loves learning about high performance. Apparently hot and cold immersion are his current passions. He's a big fan of exercise. So Joe, sorry, you're up.
Hey, James, thanks for that. And yeah, Johnny, great to listen to some of the advice that you talked us through there. I guess, guys, when James originally reached out and said, you know, come clear with what's made you successful, the framework that I almost live by is process drives performance and performance drives the end goal, right? And ultimately the end goal that we're looking to get here is how can we become successful in our role as in sales? How can we earn money off the back of it? The way I've split it up into 2 halves, so that the first half is going to be really focused around some tips that I've learned from some of the leaders that I've worked for around mindset and discipline. The second half is then some tips around how you can go and improve your sales conversations. And hopefully at the end of today, you'll be able to take one of these, apply it in the next 24 hours or so, and it'll take you closer to that financial goal that you want to get to. But if I start off, I think it's similar to what Johnny was mentioning, but if I was beginning my path at a company, and I've been going through this journey recently at Multiverse, right? It's firstly, I'd be looking at, is there a clear roadmap to success that's already been defined within my organization, right? And if there has been a roadmap that's been defined, go out and have as many conversations with as many different people to try and understand what have they done well, what have they done badly, what would they have changed if they had their time again. Then apply that all to yourself, and then you can go, and then at least you have an idea of what are the processes that you need to master to get to that end goal. One thing I'm not devoid of is the fact that not every organization has a clearly defined roadmap, right? So if you don't have that, what I would really suggest is leveraging that external network and going and speaking to people that are leaders in different businesses, different industries. And one thing you'll be really surprised by, and I know I have been for the last couple of years, it's the amount of senior leaders that are willing to invest time into you if you're coming in with a position to learn, right? And I've had a number of CROs, VPs of sales give me time to help me. And just because I came in with the view to want to learn. So that's the first piece. Understand that clear roadmap, either leverage your internal or external network. Secondly, I think Johnny touched on this a little bit, but it's those emotional setbacks, right? And there's no secret that in sales, you're going to be getting a lot of no's, a lot of emotional setbacks. For me, it was around how can you find tools that helps you sort of get back into a sort of calm state. For me, it's the likes of meditation, breath work, all that kind of thing. I mean, what I'm not saying for 1 second is everyone needs to start meditating and everyone needs to start doing breath work. But what I would really encourage you is, what are the practices that you can put into your day-to-day that will then allow you to refocus quickly and move on to the next challenge. And then the third piece around discipline and motivation that I really wish I'd have known sooner actually is the piece around distraction and multitasking. And all of the research shows, right, that when you're distracted, when you're multitasking, the quality of work that you do drops significantly. And in the current day, right, you've got constant Zoom messages, Teams messages, emails, phone calls coming from all different directions, and it's really easy to get distracted when you're working. One thing that's really helped me and that a manager talked through with me is, that time blocking the diary, even to a point of when am I going to respond to emails? When am I going to respond to Teams messages? When am I going to respond to Slack messages? And one thing you'll be really surprised by is how many messages actually need that immediate response that you think they do. It tends to be not as many as you think. So they're the first three pieces around motivation and discipline. Now I'm going to quickly touch on some of the sales specifics things that I think will be able to help you improve your sales conversations with prospects. So firstly, it's around the actual art of human communication, right? So this was a stat when I found it out, it baffled me, but 55% of human communication is visual, 38% is the tone or tonality, and then only 7% are the words that are coming out of your mouth, right? So right now when I'm speaking to you, the words that I'm saying don't really matter. What you're seeing across the screen and the tone that I'm saying it with is what's ultimately driving this conversation. So I really encourage, next time you're having a conversation with a prospect or a client, rather than spending all of that time thinking about building out a great talk track or writing out specific questions, add the tone piece into it. How can you speak in a tone that helps you build trust with your clients? The second piece around those sort of sales tips is being really clear on the impact that you want to have before every conversation. And of course, right, having a clear sales methodology or qualification framework is really important, but being really clear on that impact is equally as important, in my opinion. And I use the model, the 3 Ps, right? So whenever I'm going into an interaction, it's 1, have I come across as professional? Am I a credible person they'd want to do business with? Secondly, am I passionate? Have I genuinely shown to some degree that I care about their world, their business, which links into that 3rd P, which is around, have I made it personal? And if you've done those 3 things, quite often you'll find that it will leave your client or prospective client feeling good, and you'll get the next steps that you want to get to. Finally, I'll just wrap up, and anyone who's ever sort of heard me or from Multiverse or Gartner on the call, it's around being direct with prospects. And I think quite often you'll sense a little bit of hesitation from a client, or you'll sense a bit of hesitation from a prospect. Don't be afraid to call it out, linking into that first piece, right, around the tone. If you ask a question with the right tone, your client and prospect is going to be receptive. I always use an example of a cold call I did a couple of years ago when the client said that they were going into a meeting at 10:53. I called it out as a joke. We got the meeting, and then eventually we did the deal. So I guess to summarize, guys, mindset and discipline, a few tips there to help you with your sales conversations. And I'll hand it back over to James.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks very much for your insights. I look forward to learning more. Will, if you want to intro our next speaker.
Certainly can. Up next, we've got Christopher James, Strategic Account Executive at MuleSoft, who's going to talk to us about target setting and financial goals. So Chris has been in sales for 7 years, having started his journey with FX Broker. In 2018, he joined MuleSoft, which was at the same time they were acquired by Salesforce, and has since gone from strength to strength, exposure across both enterprise and now strategic accounts with a focus on financial services. So looking forward to this, Chris. Thanks for your time.
No worries. Thanks, Will. Yeah, so hey, everybody. Good to see everyone on the call. Echoing the points that the other guys made, I think there were some real standout areas that were focused on, particularly around the financial goals of not actually having a number that you're looking for. So, you know, there are loads of ways that you can get ambition of what you're trying to drive through with a sale, with what you're trying to do in sales. So what I'm going to talk today about, as I say, is some of those ideas around the financial goals that you can think about, what other things you can think about that contribute to making those financial goals, and then also kind of similar to Joe, just going to give you some tips that I've learned along the way through my sales career. So if I think about what Johnny talked about, coming back to that whole looking for ambition, looking for things outside of just financial goals, outside of just I want to earn over 100k, I want to earn over 150k. For me, it was always about not earning the money, but what having that money can lead to. And that's all about kind of what James talked about, the wellness that you can have. So I always had in my mind that I wanted to be able to walk into a store, for example, and purchase something without looking at the receipt. I want to be able to take some friends or partners out for dinner and not have to look at what the price tag was, what the paycheck was, so that I can, you know, have that mental well-being. And sales has allowed me to do that. But I think the thing that helps lead to that is while you're setting those targets of what are my ambitions, what do I want to achieve through financial means, there's also other targets that you can set within the sales that you're doing. So for me, for example, it's things like my customer engagement. So I want to be able to take a customer and I want to take that customer and I want to make them really successful. I want to be up on stage with them. I want to be talking through with them. How have we achieved all these successes together? What have we done for that organization to make them successful? I want to be seen as the guy that's you know, the most successful of what I'm doing. And by having those kind of goals as well that are going beyond the financial goals, that actually helps me lead into, okay, how am I going to get my targets? Because everyone who's in sales wants to earn money, but it's the things around it that help you get to that final goal. As Johnny said, it's not, you're not going to be in a case of, okay, I want to earn 100k this year, 150k next year, 155, 160, whatever k the year after. Because if you do that, I'm telling you, you will not have quite the results you're looking for, because you don't have quite the motivation to get there. So you need to have some things around that to help you drive that motivation. It sounds like kind of corny, but I hate losing more than I like winning. Winning's fine. I absolutely hate it if I lose a deal or if something goes wrong and it's something that I could have done something about. So by having those focus areas, that means they help me achieve those financial goals that I'm looking for. That's really what I would say as a kind of piece of advice to everybody. Don't just focus on, to Johnny's point, having the number that you want to hit. Focus on what is surrounding that. Why do you want to have that like amount of money? Why do you want to achieve that amount of money? And what are the things surrounding that that you can do as part of your, you know, sales career, as part of your journey, that mean that you achieve those results. Second part that I wanted to just share with everyone on the call is around what's the mindset shift and what are the things that you can be doing to try and help you become better in your sales career. So I've done 4 years of kind of sales with a MuleSoft. Before that, I was an SDR for 2 years. And anyone that's made that transition from SDR to AE recently knows that that's probably one of the hardest transitions that you're ever going to make. Going from trying to outbound, you know, people to get a meeting to, okay, how are we actually going to close business, is a very difficult thing, because you're trying to learn all of these different tools, different ways to work, and essentially you're moving from the which is a hard job of getting people on the phone to talk, through to the complexity of actually trying to close deals and make these organizations that you're working with successful. So some of the things that I think about, particularly when I was making that move, and things I've learned looking back on it, are things like, don't be, and it kind of echoes what Joe said, don't be afraid to be very direct with the companies that you're talking, or the people that you're talking with. I spent a lot of time when I was going through the initial year of being an AE, working with prospects and organizations that I probably shouldn't have done, wasting a lot of time on these things where I knew that if I just asked some pretty pointed, candid questions, or even called out, hey, are we actually going to do something here? Is this the right time to be engaging? Um, that wasn't what I should have been doing, or that sorry, wasn't the right frame of mind that I was in, because I come from a position, particularly as an SDR, where you're looking to qualify things in. You're looking for, how do I get this person to have a conversation with me? How do I get to pass that through to my the AE that I'm working with? When you make that move, you need to be thinking about, okay, how do I go from a qualifying in persona to a qualifying out persona? Because you only have a finite amount of time as an AE to be working on things. And if you're anything like the accounts that I work on, like the solutions that I sell, every deal can take a long time, and there's loads of hurdles to go through. So what you don't want to be doing is spending loads of time working on one account that actually you could have looked at previously and gone, actually, this isn't right for me. There's something not quite right about the people that I'm talking to. Maybe it's the wrong solution, it's the wrong fit. So don't be afraid to call some of that stuff out early on, because that will really help you understand, is this the right thing for me? Is this the right prospect I should be spending time with, or can I be moving on to other areas? Second point that I think is something that, again, I spent way too much time on, is kind of being it's kind of in the same vein, but it's being hooked onto an opportunity because I don't have the courage to let it go. Maybe it's, I get on really well with the prospect. Maybe it's I think there's a really good use case here, but there's always a couple of red flags going on in the back of my mind that I'm ignoring, because I want this deal to go well. And I've seen myself and lots of other A's really struggle with this, to let go of something when actually it should be an account, it should be a prospect that you just walk away from. So I guess that's my point number two. Don't be afraid, to try and walk away if you can from deals, particularly if there is something about it that you think it shouldn't be a prospect you're working on. And I guess my final point that I'm gonna kind of talk through here is, it's almost around the complexity of, as you're moving through the deal. So as you move from um, the commercial to the enterprise to the strategic organizations, when you're in that commercial patch, you can be a lot more ruthless. You'll have a lot more time to spend going through the different prospects that you're working with, the different accounts you're working with. You've got more ability and more time to be a bit more ruthless about who am I going to spend the time with. But when you become, more of the enterprise or strategic area, you will find you have organizations that you work with and people that you work with inside those organizations that you have to spend more time with, and you have to work with, and you have to take more time building up those relationships, because they might not pan out this year, but next year maybe they will, the year after maybe they'll do something better. I hope that's helpful. The coming back to the advice that I would give, particularly if I was starting out, or I was moving from an SDR to an AE role, really think about, what are those motivations that you have beyond the financial ones? What are the things that are going to motivate you to be successful, that are going to get you to those financial goals, that surround your financial goals? And then when it comes to actually tips, ideas around being an A, don't be afraid to qualify out. Don't be afraid to walk away when you have to. Don't be afraid to have frank conversations with your prospects, and once you've earned the right to have those conversations, don't be afraid to have them. And really think about relationship building as you move through the ranks, as you go through enterprise into strategic. It's really about, how do you build those relationships, those long-term relationships that maybe don't pan off now, but pan off later. and hopefully that gives you guys some tips and ideas around, what's made me successful and what can help with everybody else.
Chris, really appreciate
James.
it. Some great points around relationship building, long-term perspectives, and also, understanding your purpose and what's motivating you. Look forward to picking your brains further a bit later on. So our next speaker, penultimate speaker, before I come up and share more about the different options that you can get involved in as part of the Sales Confidence membership, is Will Rees, who you've already seen up. He is a partner at Corinthian Wealth Management. He's going to be talking about the 3 things salespeople say they wish they knew earlier. Will has established an approach specialized for high-performing software sales professionals. Individuals in this space typically do not have the time, confidence, or inclination to manage their financial planning effectively. So they need a trusted advisor to help them take control and achieve true financial well-being. He's been at Corinthian for 5 years, working exclusively with SaaS salespeople. So he's the perfect person in the industry to teach us some insights. Will, I'm going to invite you up.
Thank you, James. I think the place I want to start with is some of the guys mentioned it, about having goals that go beyond financial. So I speak to salespeople every single week, right? I think 10 to 15 probably new people a week. Some of them are on this call, which I know. So hello again, guys. And it's about, what are your motivations for the future? And often it's like a financial driver. I want to get to the next role. I want to do bigger accounts, want to earn more, etc. And the obvious follow-up question is, why? And we've all seen this talk track, haven't we? Why? It's true in our industry as it is in yours. What would an extra $100,000 a year do for you? Well, I could have more money. Okay, but why? Would you need to do it? Well, why do you need that? More holidays. Okay, well, there we go. There's a life objective, right? So it comes back to what Johnny was talking about, and the reason that you want to be more successful, the reason you want to do more. My job is to educate people on this problem as early as possible, and it's the retirement problem, right? And I'll talk a bit about it today. That most salespeople are not prepared for retirement. It's a big outlandish claim, and I'm sure some of the people on this call would agree, and I will evidence it today. And the first sort of trigger to that is think about your comp plan. So everyone on this call now can think about their comp plan, whether it's a basic, OTE, if there's shares involved, RSUs, ESPPs, there might be equity from an exit event, whatever it may be, right? There's multiple facets to a salesperson's comp plan. What percentage of that are you saving into a pension? Because often we find it's just a default 10%. The average is actually 9% in the industry based on my experience of your basic. So the example we often give, and again, the guys on the call that I've spoken to recently will know this. If you have 100K basic, you're paying 9% a year into your pension, you're saving 9,000. If you hit your number, because that's what we're all here to do, right? We're all high performance. We all want to exceed expectation, whether it be for the monetary amount or just the high performance, which we've also touched on today. You're saving $9,000 a year, less than 10% of your income, less than 5% of your income. How are we ever going to be prepared for retirement if we don't save a greater amount? So it's a personal responsibility. So what I'm going to go through, as James said, is I'm going to try and share some slides. So hopefully this does work. Bear with me one moment. Share screen. Isn't this classic? This is, let me know if you can see my slides. How many times have we heard that? There we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. Okay.
Yeah, you're good, Will.
Nice one. Thank you. So the best place for us to start is with what people are telling us the most. And as I said, I speak to maybe 10, 15 new salespeople every week, and I have done on average for the last 5 years. So you can do the maths there. And we are barely scratching the surface with this industry, I'm sure. And the most common thing we are told is that they've never had any access to any advice, any education, any guidance. And it's evident, right? When I meet a sales leader with 40 grand in a pension, who's been earning 200, 300 for a decade or so, right? The level of earnings and success that they've enjoyed is not commensurate with what they're saving towards their future. And it's because, again, it's not like they've been let down. It's just a missed opportunity, right? And our position here, partnered with Sales Confidence, is to educate people on these problems earlier. First stage, educate. The second one is to guide people. So explain, this is what's available to you. This is what others in a similar position have done, and as early as possible, right? We all know that timing is everything with customers, with prospects, with anyone. Same in our world. But actually, I'm sure everyone would agree that getting on top of this early takes a lot of the pressure away. Investments take time. And for those that need it, full financial planning advice. Because as James said, most people we meet, you think about end of quarter, even if you're doing well, you've got deals to think about, you've got your own life commitments as a sales leader, you've got your team to think about. There's 101 things we all have to manage every day. Most people tell us they don't want to look at their old pensions, right? And they don't want to think about this, and they just physically can't. But it's not a nice to have, right? It's a need. So what I'm going to focus on first of all is just 3 basic things that I think everybody on this call needs to know. And I hope most people will take something away from this. It starts very basic, right? And I dropped this onto my first presentation to the Sales Confidence members not long ago, that if you earn over 100K, you need to complete a self-assessment. I'm hoping that of the 100 people on here, everybody knows that. But if there isn't, there we go. You need to be aware that once you start earning over 100,000, which is often the first milestone that we talked about today, you need to complete one. It can be done online by yourself or via an accountant. If you are unsure about this or anything that I go through today, please email me. I will point you in the right direction. This is the point of the presentation today, is to educate you on the things you need to be aware of and make sure we drive a better outcome. So everybody here, I'm assuming, will be doing a self-assessment, or needs to, was just realized, but also will be aspiring to in the future. Not aspiring to do a self-assessment clearly, but you'll need to. This is arguably the most important slide, I think, for today. And I've posted a lot about this on LinkedIn recently. So hopefully some guys that are on the call today can sort of validate in the chat, or, James again can talk a bit about this. This is something that's been cropping up more and more. So I'm not sure if anybody knows the difference between salary sacrifice or relief at source. I can go through it very briefly today, but the call to action for you is to check how your pension contributions are being made. And most people on this call go, I just honestly don't even care. I wouldn't even know what that means. The reason you need to care is because if it's been set up as relief at source, you may be owed tax. I need to say may, because obviously I don't know your situation, but if anybody's seen the recent posts I've been doing on LinkedIn to just highlight and educate on this problem, essentially relief at source means that you only get basic rate tax relief, which is 20%, so a lower tax threshold. But if you're a 45% taxpayer, which many of you are, then actually we need to make sure that you're claiming the right tax relief and not missing tax that you're owed. Salespeople often tell us they want to reduce the amount they lose in tax. They come to us for technical advice on how to fund a pension or do other sort of tax planning. And really, they just need to know, stage 1, how their own pension contributions are being made. So if nothing else, an action for you all, and I've put the 3 takeaways at the end, is to look at your active pension contributions, log into the portal. Many people will be going, I don't even know where it is. I don't even know how much I'm contributing. This is the point, right? Let's raise the awareness. Let's focus on this earlier so we can make some better decisions. I can help you with this. Just let me know. As I alluded to, there isn't a salesperson on the planet that doesn't want to, again, another bold claim, but based on my experience, a pretty safe bet, that doesn't want to reduce the amount they lose in tax, The simplest way to reduce the amount you lose in tax is to pay more into your pension. And forgive me if there's a majority on this call that know this already, but this is the best advice that we are giving to salespeople every single day, is how much they can pay into the pension based on their earnings and the right thing for them. Because this year, the allowance is 60,000, unless it's tapered. So that's another conversation that can be reduced if your earnings exceed a certain threshold. But let's say it's 60,000 for the majority of people on this call. If, like that common example I gave a minute ago, you're paying 9,000 a year, 9% of your basic, you've got 51K available. If you paid, this is just one example, as a 45% taxpayer, let's say your comp was 200, okay? This is just an easy example to give. If you paid 40,000 into a pension, it would immediately become 50K. So you make a 10K reclaim of tax immediately, guaranteed. That's 10,000 in tax you would have lost this tax year. There will be people on this call that didn't even know you could pay into a pension personally, just thought it was the employer. And this is why we're doing this. But as I said a minute ago, with the relief at source conversation, that would only be 20% of the relief. So as a 45% taxpayer, you still need to claim the other 25%. Via self-assessment, which an accountant could help you with, you claim 25% of the 50K, which is 12.5. So the 27K is the net contribution. 40 invested, 50 goes in with the 10K relief. You get 12.5 via self-assessment paid back to you, not into the pension, paid back to you. So it's a net cost of 27.5, gives you 50K. I've just seen a quick comment come in. I know we're coming into the end, but it's a perfect time to address it. Pension versus ISA, they are both the right products to use. I'm not saying one over the other, but the pension provides the immediate gains. So that 40K becoming 50 and then getting 12.5 back. One, you can't pay 40K into a pension. It's 20K per annum. It is still tax-free growth, but you can't pay any more than 20K a year. With the pension, you make an immediate 40 to 45% gain. So that's why we prioritize that. If it's the right thing for the clients, situation specific, but actually it's the best guaranteed return up front for tax relief. Again, just to highlight what's available, just to educate and aware. Just going to summarize the 3 common challenges, very simple little framework here that we see. Again, lots of people on this call will resonate with all, if not, at least one of these. So again, we can start to demonstrate a bit of the impact, a bit of guidance around what sort of solutions are in place as well. Again, I think James mentioned there's a sort of 100 or so people on the call this afternoon. Thank you again for giving your time on a Wednesday. Many of you would have worked at multiple companies already in your career. Even early careerists, you might have been in the industry for 10 years. Conceivably, you could have worked at 3, 4 companies. So you will have multiple pensions. And most often, people don't even know where they are. They don't know how much is invested in them. They don't know how they are invested themselves. They don't know what level of income it could provide them in the future. That's always a problem, right? That's a real sort of blind spot. So what we're seeing is that these default funds and actually having all these multiple pensions is providing more admin, more statements each year, and it's easier to put it off and off, right? I've met a client before who's 51 as a sales director, had 17 pensions. He openly admitted on the call, he was like, I know I need to do this. I physically refuse because of how much admin it'll take. And again, that's quite an extreme example. You can imagine that most people I meet have anywhere between 3 and 5 at least. The cause of this, again, you guys are in the industry, you'll see this, right? And IC's average 10 years, less than 3 years. I think the last time I saw it was 15 months. Someone correct me, feel free to, like to be wrong. But the sort of average expression was 3 months to sort of ramp, and then 12 months, one sort of full calendar year to really sort of hit the number, and then they move on to the next opportunity. That's been the short-term use. Leaders, typically 3 to 5, depending on if there's an exit event opportunity. But if we think, even with the life-changing money that can be made in software sales, conceivably you will work for 2 to 3 decades. If you're super successful, you can get out within 2 to 3 decades, which is obviously the point I'm trying to make. You're going to work at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 companies. We have to stay on top of your pensions. Okay. Lack of pension, as I said a minute ago, the biggest threat to retirement capability is simply not having enough saved. And that is driven by the comp structure of most salespeople. It's not defaulting, it's not automated, it's not set up to create longer term wealth. It's set up for you to earn life-changing money. So the missing bit, the bridge between success and financial choice, security and freedom, is setting things up to make sure that you are on track. It's a personal responsibility. Pensions through the state pension today is 10,000. It's £203 a week. Nobody's retiring on that. Also kicks in at 68. There's no guaranteed pensions anymore, defined benefit. Some of us may have had parents or grandparents that enjoyed defined benefit pensions. In our generation, that won't be the case. We are personally responsible for our retirement capability. It's commensurate with what we're saving. So as soon as we get on this, the better. Just have an awareness. It's about educating you on where you are today. Tax and inflation won't come as any surprise, right? And I know the guys on the call that have seen my sort of first meeting slides will know that these are the 3 areas we focus on. So forgive me for repeating myself. But tax, again, no salesperson in the world needs to be told about tax, but it's understanding how it works on income, on shares, on other sort of assets that you may or may not have, whether it be rental properties or otherwise. That's a common sort of objective that I see. We've talked a bit about life objectives. Lots of salespeople tell me they want a rental property. I say, why? Same talk track. I like the idea of passive income. Okay, why? Well, I work really hard for my income, and it's very, very difficult to continue at this intensity. So, okay, what level of income would you need from your rental properties? Well, I'd like to replace it with my entire income with rental property. Well, do you know the level of investment you need to make in property to completely replace the income you're enjoying today? It's going to cost a huge amount from you. Is that the best solution for you? I don't know. It's about understanding, right? So it comes back to that education point. Understand how things work, then I can show what others in a similar position have done. Tax is the biggest threat on an annual basis. 200K this tax year. So for anybody who's got an OT around 200K, that will be 84K in tax and national insurance. So 84K will be lost to HMRC through that. Now, again, we can't change that. We're not trying to change regulation. We're not claiming we can. Everything we're doing is HMRC approved. It's about being efficient with allowances. And inflation, more pertinent today, it's come down. Was it 6.8% today? Still far away from the government target of 2%. Inflation affects all of us. It's not so much the inflation in the last 10 months, 12 months that's been the issue, although that's now baked into the economy. If we look at it over the last 30, 40, 50 years, it's averaging about 4%. If you think about where you are in your career, you might be working for another 20 to 30 years. Inflation will have a massive impact on your retirement capability. Then when you're retired for another 20, 30 years, hopefully, at least, enjoying a fruitful retirement, inflation plays a part. You have to be thinking about how you're growing your money and protecting it from tax each year. Because if you're not, your hard work's being undone. And these are the sorts of challenges that when we highlight them to a senior sales leader, a CRO, They sit there and they go, I wish I knew this 20 years ago. You know, why haven't I been doing this beforehand? And it's because there is no education, there's no guidance, there isn't a support metric that I can see at scale in the SaaS industry. And I'm glad that we're being able to sort of pave the way with this with sales confidence. To wrap things up, here are 3 actionable takeaways. I think any sort of presentation I do, whether it be to a BDR, SDR, AE, leader, founder, CEO, whatever it may be, you're always going to make sure in a 30-minute call, you give someone something that can drive a better outcome. You know, the best way to prove you add value is to constantly give it, right? And that's something that we believe. So there's 3 things today that everybody can take away. If you've got old pensions, where are they? Contact the old employers, contact old colleagues, use the government pension tracing service. That's pretty unreliable, but the first 2 should get you there, right? Check old statements and old emails. Find out how much you have in total and how they're invested. Are they just the default solutions? A consolidation might be the right thing for you to do to avoid losing these in the future. I think the last stat I read was the £27 billion of lost pension funds in the UK. Lost. Ridiculous, right? You can't lose money, right? That's unforgivable. Check your pension contributions. I can guarantee there will be a small percentage of people on here that we would have just found £1,000 to £2,000 to £3,000 in tax that they otherwise would have lost. And I'd look forward to hearing who that was as well, right? So an action from today is let me know. If you look into your pension contributions, I'd love to share that success story again. Look at your active scheme, but you can also look back 4 tax years as well. And this is why it's important to know this early. Because if we did this conversation in 4 years' time, any pension contribution you're making today that might apply, doesn't matter, you've lost that tax relief forever. And again, we always talk about this with prospects, and when we're sort of talking about introductions, again, the guys that I work with on the call will know, there's no value in a client doing this in 5 years' time. If the timing's right and the approach is right and it's a good fit, they need to do it now because they're going to miss out on 5 years worth of tax advice and investment returns as well. Allowances shift every single year. The final point, and I think this is key for everyone on the call as well, think about what you could earn in the next 12 months. Then work out net of tax what that should be. Then take away, did this exercise today actually with a prospect, then take away what you will be spending on a monthly basis. That's how much you could save. Think about what you did in the last 12 months, the tax year before, how much were you saving? Be honest with yourself, be direct and say, okay, well, am I actually putting my money to good use? Just think about the intensity at which you have to work, the hundreds of meetings, the stress, the paranoia, the slight bit of relief that you get when a deal closes. Are you planning that money effectively to enable you to have full financial choice and security in the future? Or is it because there isn't a plan, there isn't that visibility, you don't have that awareness? Are you actually just losing it through tax and inflation and perhaps a little bit of discretionary spending where it doesn't need to be? So those are my 3 actionable takeaways. Again, the best thing I can suggest from this is just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm posting daily about things I'm speaking to people about every week, the common challenges, and hopefully something that will be of use. But if you get on top of pensions, you check your pension contributions, you think about your savings, you'll be in a much better place. Thank you.
So helpful. Appreciate it, Will.
Thank you, James.
Super valuable stuff. And looks like there's some questions coming in. We're going to invite everyone coming over. We might overrun slightly. I just wanted to kind of take a moment to share with you what we're doing as part of the Sales Confidence membership. I know there's quite a few members on the call. A lot of you, though, have known me and Sales Confidence as kind of an events business. But over the last year, we've been building up our membership to almost 100 salespeople and sales leaders of a group of like growth mindset individuals that want to be the top leader and want to be individuals that stand out amongst others. So I had a career in SaaS sales, early stage startup scale up, spent 4 years at LinkedIn before founding the Sales Confidence business 5 years ago. Over the last year, we've been building out this membership, and I just want to give you some options. So if you decide, you can become part of the membership today. The question is, are you on, there's probably a reason that you decided to come on here. You are motivated to go to the next level in your career. You're motivated to increase your earnings. You want to overachieve your target, or you want to take the step into leadership. Johnny, Chris, and Joe have all shared material, practical things that you can take away. And I want to be able to give you that on a weekly basis. And that's exactly why we built the Sales Confidence membership. Number of reasons why people have joined us. They want support, advice on winning larger deals. They need to understand what more they need to be doing now to become a leader, get to that next role as a VP, or maybe even step up into a CRO. They like to be held accountable to their goals, and they're seeking advice from other high performers. Chris mentioned it. Surround yourself with other winners. It's going to raise your game. Also, people would like to surround themselves with people that have a similar mindset, learning from others, and want to upskill themselves. And these are all direct quotes from some of our recent members that have joined, just to give you an idea of why they want to be part of something like this. So why consider the personal membership? If you want to accelerate your growth, improve your earnings, increase your network reach, and access leaders that are going to help you with your mindset, well-being, and performance, this is the perfect solution for you. We've got 5 key elements that essentially we add value to your life and career. We give you access to mentors that can give you inspiration, support, and guidance, provide you access to professional coaches that can help you get clarity on your future plan. So maybe that's earnings goals, career motivation. There might be blockers that you've got right now that are holding you back. Maybe you're underperforming, maybe you need help. One of the magical things is that we provide access to a weekly peer group. So you get access to a group of peers with a facilitator, you can get deal reviews, you can work out what challenges you're facing, and you can do more. And then there's monthly dinners and then weekly masterclasses and Q&A, where we bring in content like today on a weekly basis. We've had Olympians, book authors, sales leaders, world-class sales performing people that are available to you as part of the membership. Now, the peer group, as I mentioned, is facilitated by a top performing IC. So Rod Amy's was one of the top, in fact, the top global performer at Braze last year. He's just been promoted. He facilitates this particular group that we've still got a few places, and you can get access to him on a weekly basis. We've got various leaders across the network from top performing companies that you can get access to and support you in your career from advice, guidance, and inspiration. And ultimately, this is about annual development. So a lot of you, and about 40% of our membership, get their company to cover the cost of this. So this is something probably that you can get budget from your company, and if not, just invest in yourself to go to the next stage of your career. There's 3 options. There's our accelerator option, which just gives you access to our online portal, free access to our ongoing events, which is £500. The professional, which is where you get the peer group access for £1,800 a year. And then if you want additional coaching, access to the dinners and mentorship, our premium option is only £3,300, and it's the most popular. Now, those of you I know, are on your way to 6-figure earning, maybe you're looking to get to that 150, 200K. This is a very small, affordable percentage. And right now you can go to the website, you'll get a text message in a moment and an email. You can go to the website, access Rob Amy's group and submit if you want to access one of the packages and join today. And just as a bonus, if you sign up before 8 p.m. today, you'll get a free place at our next dinner on the 6th of September. You'll get a free 1-hour coaching call with myself, and also 3 months access to private mentors on an ongoing basis. So that is the Sales Confidence membership. We've got tons of testimonials. We've got almost 100 members, as I've told you. This is something that's making an impact on people's lives and careers, and I'd love to support you with it as well. So thank you for listening. So I'm just going to invite all the speakers back up. And just one question I want to ask each of you, and everybody get questions going if you've got an opportunity. What do you think is the one thing, if you had to pinpoint one thing like that you did in your career that moved the needle from going from 60K a year to 100 or 200K to 500, like what's the one thing that you think, that thing that I do is the thing that really makes a difference to where I've got to in my career? Who wants to take that one?
I'll start. It was probably the last point on my list, which is the always being a student kind of element. Telling yourself that you're not the finished article kind of all the time. You can always learn more to get to 100K, 250, 500 million. I'm in that bracket despite everything. I'm looking at the next stage and what I need to do to get there. Because I think if you've already got the skills to get there, why aren't you already at that stage? Is what I always ask myself. So yeah, mine would be the always being a student bit.
Like it. Chris?
Yeah, I think kind of similar to that. For me, it was surrounding myself with the right people, but also not having fear to go and ask people that I might necessarily not want to. For example, CRO of different companies, customers, clients, asking them for some support, like what do I do right, what do I need help with, and really for me it was that, to Johnny's point, always having an open mindset, but always making sure that I've got the right people around me that can help me, that I can go and ask questions, and that really moved the needle for me in terms of getting me into bigger conversations, getting me into more complex deals, getting me into areas that I might not necessarily get into without putting my hand up and saying, yeah, this is what I want to do. How do I get involved?
Amazing. Joe?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously network piece that Chris has mentioned there, the piece that Johnny mentioned around constantly learning. The only thing that I would add on top of that is the discipline aspect, right? And just getting comfortable with doing the things that aren't glamorous, aren't fun, not always having great conversations with clients, but doing the stuff that perhaps people don't see, and getting really comfortable with doing that.
Amazing. Will, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I think Joe nailed it in his session. Is you learn from others that know better, right? If there's a proven sort of process for success, I mean, we've all done this. I did it 12, 18 months ago when I observed another business, an SJP, and learned about how they operated to sort of client service and meetings, and it sort of revolutionized, right? And it's the idea of learning from people that have already done it to a high level, because you don't know everything, and just being that, having that humility to go, look, I can be good. And it links to Johnny's point, I do have the skills to be good, but what's the barrier? Is it someone else is doing it slightly differently? And that's the power of the network point, right? So there, Joe and Johnny nailed it as well.
Amazing. And that's what we're here for. We are on time, so I just want to be respectful for everyone, because I know you've got to jump on the calls and do other things. We're going to do an in-person Money Matters event in October. We're going to keep this theme going, so I'm sure the guys will get along. You'll be able to get to know them, ask questions, connect with everybody on LinkedIn. Really appreciate you all putting effort into your talks. We've had over 100 people dial in today, so thank you very much for everyone joining us. More information to come, and everybody have a great day and great week.
Thanks all.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming on.